Ferrari just entered full-blown crisis mode, and it's not because they broke the rules. It's because their numbers might be too perfect. Why would the FIA suddenly investigate data from a team that hasn't even hit the track, and what do Ferrari's power figures reveal that triggered such suspicion? You're about to uncover how Ferrari's 2026 engine figures defy expected energy curves, how a sensor anomaly might expose a massive calibration trick, and why a secret material switch could now cost them the entire season. And here's the twist. This isn't just about numbers, it's about trust. Because if Ferrari can't prove how they got those results, they may have to rebuild their power unit from scratch. The FIA's investigation didn't begin with a whistleblower or a protest, it started with spreadsheet. During a routine cross-team data review, a sharp-eyed FIA analyst noticed something Ferrari probably didn't expect anyone to catch. Their energy retention rate under simulated stress conditions was simply too consistent. While every other team reported natural degradation in hybrid battery output over extended laps, Ferrari's figures stayed flat even in high ambient temperature simulations. At first glance, that might look like exceptional engineering, but the FIA knows better. That kind of consistency doesn't happen in real-world thermal environments. It's either a groundbreaking energy control system or a data anomaly that demands answers. Inside the Project 678 development team at Maranello, that anomaly traces back to a sensor strategy that's now under the spotlight. Ferrari's engineers reportedly developed a dual-mode sensor array, one part monitoring thermal loads, the other learning from energy deployment behavior over time. The system was designed to anticipate stress points and adjust flow rates before they occurred. On paper, it's legal, but in practice, it may create a reporting gap that misleads power output calculations. That's where the controversy starts. If the FIA determines that Ferrari's system misrepresents real-world conditions, it could constitute a violation of the technical directives governing power unit accuracy and benchmarking integrity. Things took a darker turn when it was revealed that the structural battery casing used during Ferrari's test cycles may not match the final race spec material. While Ferrari insists the change was part of a late development switch, rival teams argue that the initial data used in early FIA briefings was based on components that performed better than those now scheduled for production. In effect, this means the FIA may have been misled into believing Ferrari's system could maintain stability under more aggressive conditions than it actually can. Whether that was intentional or not, the damage is done. The governing body is now re-evaluating all test results tied to that configuration. Meanwhile, buried in the most recent report, there's one detail that could explain Ferrari's strange numbers: the temporary reintroduction of the steel crown combustion head. This component, known for its unusual heat resilience, was originally rejected due to stress fracturing in long cycles. But internal documents suggest Ferrari used it again briefly in late-phase bench tests to improve energy retention metrics. If true, that means the power unit figures under review weren't just suspect, they were built on a component that won't be legal under final FIA homologation. That would be a major blow to Ferrari's credibility and a serious breach of technical compliance. From a political standpoint, the stakes couldn't be higher. The FIA is under immense pressure to enforce transparency after recent scrutiny over power unit favoritism. Ferrari, for all its legacy and influence, is not immune to regulatory action, especially now that the hybrid era is entering its most tightly governed phase. If the FIA rules that Ferrari's data was misleading or compiled using non-representative hardware, it could trigger a full reset of their validation process. That would mean losing their performance advantage, revising system mappings, and worst of all, delaying final engine approval just months before the deadline. Inside Ferrari, the mood is shifting from confidence to quiet panic. Engineers are now being pulled off other projects to focus solely on audit compliance. Every log, every calibration setting, every piece of sensor metadata is being reviewed line by line to ensure it can withstand FIA scrutiny. Fred Vasseur, caught between defending his team and protecting the Scuderia's reputation, is walking a tightrope. He knows that even a soft FIA ruling like a directive to retest under new parameters could undermine months of work. Worse still, it opens the door for other teams to request access to Ferrari's power modeling strategies, citing competitive fairness. And this brings us to the real question: how far is too far in the pursuit of performance? Is Ferrari guilty of cheating or just of pushing too hard in a system full of ambiguity? In Formula One, pushing the limits is part of the DNA. But when the numbers start to look too good, even brilliance becomes suspicious. What would you do if you were on the FIA's technical team? Let it pass as genius, or demand a level playing field before it's too late. As the investigation unfolds, rival teams are ramping up pressure in subtle, yet strategic ways. Mercedes has already dispatched its powertrain compliance team to review old technical directives, hoping to build a case that Ferrari's data handling breaches the intent, if not the letter, of current FIA rules. Red Bull, operating with typical stealth, is running comparative simulations using leaked Ferrari telemetry analyzing energy release curves and thermal management behaviors to determine just how much of Ferrari's performance stems from clever design versus procedural manipulation. What's clear is that both teams are preparing not just for legal intervention, but for potential countermeasures in case the FIA lets Ferrari off too lightly. This isn't about fairness, it's about survival in a development war already costing tens of millions. The paddock knows that whatever happens next will have ripple effects far beyond Maranello. Teams like Audi, Alpine, and even Honda, each at different stages of their own 2026 development, are watching closely. If Ferrari's methods are ruled legal, everyone will rush to adopt similar sensor learning systems and reinterpret material usage in bench testing. If ruled illegal, it could cause a domino effect of compliance audits and force multiple manufacturers to revalidate their own test cycles. This uncertainty creates chaos in development calendars, disrupts simulator programs, and pressures suppliers to meet new compliance demands at short notice. In a sport where timing is everything, these consequences are devastating. One particularly complex issue is that Ferrari's design may have exploited an information gap rather than a rule breach. According to sources close to the investigation, the FIA had not yet finalized its hybrid telemetry compliance protocols when Ferrari began their sensor learning integration. This means Ferrari technically submitted their data before the exact monitoring standards were in place. That detail matters, because while Ferrari's figures may now appear suspicious under updated rules, they were not clearly out of line under the rules at the time of submission. This puts the FIA in a political corner. Rule retroactivity is always a controversial move, especially when it could derail an entire team's engine strategy. Behind the scenes, Ferrari's legal department has already prepared multiple scenarios for how to respond. If the FIA issues a soft ruling, a directive to resubmit data under clarified parameters, Ferrari will comply while maintaining their design. But if the ruling includes sanctions such as revoking validation status or banning the use of their AI-based deployment software, Ferrari is prepared to appeal immediately. They've reportedly compiled documentation showing internal discussions with FIA liaisons during the design phase, which they believe proves transparency and good faith. Whether that's enough to sway the outcome remains to be seen, but shows how high the stakes have become. All of this is happening at a critical point in the F1 timeline. The 2026 season may seem distant, but the technical freeze dates are rapidly approaching. Any delay in Ferrari's validation process compresses their integration window for chassis pairing, aerodynamic mapping, and simulator programming. That's not just a technical bottleneck, it's a strategic disaster. Leclerc's feedback loops, tire behavior models, and race weekend simulations are all calibrated to a specific power unit profile. If the FIA ruling forces even minor adjustments to torque delivery or thermal behavior, it could unravel Ferrari's entire preparation timeline, setting them back months in a sport where development never sleeps. Emotionally, the fallout is just as severe. For Ferrari, this isn't just a technical challenge, it's an existential threat to their vision of redemption. After years of stagnation and missed opportunities, the 2026 engine was supposed to be their masterpiece, a culmination of bold thinking and hard-won lessons. Now, that vision is under siege not from failure, but from suspicion. Internally, there's a growing fear that even if they're vindicated, the stigma of this investigation could linger, tainting their innovations and creating long-term skepticism from both fans and regulators. In F1, trust is as valuable as speed, and once it's lost, it's almost impossible to recover. So here's the question that matters most. If Ferrari's figures were artificially elevated by smart but borderline design tactics, do they deserve to be punished? Or should we celebrate them for pushing the edge of innovation in a rulebook that's often too vague for its own good? What would you do if you had to choose between enforcing strict compliance or protecting the spirit of competition?